My name is Terry Burghardt, and I'll be interviewing Elmer Hunter. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. The interview is taking place in Plainfield, Illinois on Saturday, March 15th, 2008. Over the past century, hundreds of thousands of brave military men and women have given their lives, and millions more have received physical and psychological wounds as a result of their duty to secure our way of life. Commanding these soldiers, sailors, and airmen is a demanding and serious responsibility. Today, I am honored to have as my guest one of these distinguished individuals, and even more honored that our interview will be put in the permanent records of the Library of Congress. Please join me in welcoming World War II veteran, torpedoman Elmer Hunter. Elmer, welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Tell us, Elmer, where were you born, and what was your birth date, Elmer?
I was born in Manhattan, New York.
And your birth date?
I am now 85 years old. Happily, good health.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 6 grown grandchildren, okay? 2 boys, 4 girls. They are all married, and I have great-grandchildren.
Oh my goodness.
5 great-grandchildren, and they all live close by here, about 20 minutes from Plainfield,
Mm-hmm.
Illinois.
And your birth date was?
11/11/22.
11/11.
Yeah, I keep saying 11/11 because that's the way you sign everything now. November 11th, 1922. Armistice.
Mm-hmm.
Baby.
Tell us, Elmer, how did you find your way into the Navy?
I always loved the Navy. In fact, I first wanted submarine duty way back. I used to see posters on our elevator trains of submarine. I said, that's what I want.
Uh-huh.
But then I didn't get the submarine duty at the time. I got destroyer duty. But
did you enlist or were you drafted?
no, I enlisted.
You volunteered?
I volunteered at 18. I wanted to get in earlier, but my dad wouldn't sign for me, so I had to wait until I was 18.
What year was that, Elmer?
1941.
1941.
Right. I was turned 18 November 11th, 1941.
Oh.
Therefore, I could get into the Navy, all right? And that's when I enlisted. But they didn't take me right away. I had to wait until I was called.
I see. And where did you do your basic training at?
Great Lakes, Illinois.
Right here up in
Yes.
north of Chicago.
Yes, for 12 weeks. Then after basic training,
Mm-hmm.
I was sent to torpedo school. And that was another 8 weeks at Great Lakes. Then after that, I and other fellows were shipped to Newport, Rhode Island
Oh, okay.
to do advanced basic training. After that, 8 weeks, then we went out to San Francisco, Treasure Island,
Oh.
to catch a troop ship.
Uh-huh.
So to head for South Pacific with many, many other guys, Marines, Army, Navy, so forth.
And when you arrived in the South Pacific, were you assigned then to a destroyer?
I guess I had papers before that. I believe I was probably assigned to the ship before I left the States.
I see, sure.
But all right, we got to the South Pacific. Now we all started to spread. We had other fellows from torpedo school, graduates, and we all separated. Their ship be going there or their ship there. We went into a holding pattern, about 8-10 guys in a tent. And as days went on, different fellows would go to their location.
What did they do, stick their heads in a tent and say, Elmer, come this way?
Yes.
Yeah, and you jumped.
Just about. We knew we were going to a destroyer.
Okay.
But we knew
When
we were
did-
going to destroy it. Now, where is a destroyer? Okay, we're in this holding pattern now. Now they say, your ship is so-and-so. So then we would leave to head for that ship. Now a destroyer does not stand still long enough. We got to that location. Oh, they just left. So then we had to wait another holding pattern at another campsite until, again, they say your ship is heading to a different location. Then we got on a troop ship this one time, went to this location. Again, the ship had already left. We finally caught up to the ship. We were, and another fellow and I were teamed together, and we were in a working party, and we were filthy dirty. Now we guess the ship is in, and they went aboard ship looking filthy. Now when you get aboard a destroyer, they have guys are all Navy guys are clean, but we had just come from working party, and we were a mess. And we met the chief, and the chief says, go ahead, you guys, get cleaned up.
And what was the name of that ship?
USS Drayton, DD 366, commissioned in 1936, and I'd like to talk about my ship, if I may.
Yes, sir. That's
In
what we're
fact,
here
that's
for.
why I'm here. We had said at our reunions, we had 20 reunions or 20 years, whichever way you want to put it, that we had reunions. And we always said, the last man, we bought wanted to buy a magnum of champagne. This is for the last man alive. Now we say, if the last man alive, they're probably too old to drink it anyway, and probably couldn't remember where they put it.
So have you tapped into that bottle already?
No, we never got the bottle.
You never got the bottle.
I was hoping for the last man.
So when you were assigned to the Drayton, what were some of the tasks that you had on board? What did you have to do on the ship?
Oh, I was a helmsman. I'd be up ship up through here to steer the ship because our torpedo director is up there, so therefore we would be right with that location. This was my battle station right here, torpedo tube 3, starboard side.
And as a helmsman, that means you were steering the ship.
Yes. And if we had a surface action, then we'd go to our torpedo tube. But then if there was no surface air action, then I was assigned to gun number 1 here
I see.
as a shell handler. 55 pounds shell.
And where did those shells come from? Did they come up like from the
Magazine below.
I see, the deck below.
You're there below. And then we carry from there to the gunner's main.
Okay, when you finally got on the Drayton, about how old were you?
19.
About you're 19 years old, and you're driving a destroyer.
Yes.
That was a wonderful responsibility.
Yes, it was. I'd be in personal contact with the captain then, you know. He'd give me a course change, and I acknowledge.
I see.
All right.
So after you got onto the Drayton, you had to be kind of one of the rookies on the ship, one of the new guys. It didn't probably take you too long to get to know the other people. But what were the living quarters like in a destroyer in those days?
Tight. Very tight. How would I want to put it now? I get, not knowing what a big ship was like back then, that was comfortable, right? We got used to it, we enjoyed it. But from what I heard from other fellows that later on, they were on a cruiser or a battleship, it was like being at home, you know. Beautiful. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my ship, okay?
Yes, sir.
The USS Drayton was commissioned in 1936. 9 other destroyers were built at the time. President Roosevelt wanted to keep the men working during depressions, so he had destroyers built. And of course mine was the Drayton. And when I first came aboard the ship, the chief torpedoman, my buddy and I, he said, now, this is your home, okay? Treat it kindly, nicely. Treat your ship like you would a woman. Be good to it, okay? Don't let anybody say anything about your ship, but good. That was what we first were told when we came aboard ship.
And were most of the crewmen, when you got on the Drayton, about your age, or were there any that were younger?
Yes. Now we're getting back to, if you don't mind,
Not at all.
before the war started, during Depression, okay? There were fellows who joined the Army or the Navy. We had 2 boys aboard ship who were only 14 years old. They were big guys, farm fellows, and the officers found out about it. Of course, then they were shipped home again, and told them to come back when they were 18.
So where did you pick the Drayton up finally? Where did you finally get on it? It was someplace in the South Pacific?
Yes. Once again, we say we were assigned to a location, okay? We traveled here, we traveled there. We're some island. And we were filthy dirty, my buddy and I, because we were on a working party. But we saw the ship. We said, oh God, thank goodness. That's our home.
And so you were on the Drayton, and you were a torpedoman and a helmsman. When did you first see action? Do you recall where that was and
Yes.
what occurred?
Yes. February 17, 1943. We participated in defensive against Japanese night torpedo attack. That was our first action. I got a list of all the different actions here, like February 17, June 30th, September 4th, 1943, September 4th again to September 7th. All dates that I have.
Well, when we discussed some of these activities beforehand, you told me one time that you were attacked by about 60 planes, and you guys had to put up a pretty big smoke screen. Can you tell me about that again? That was very interesting.
Yes. We participated in a night defense against Japanese night bombers at Salomo, New Guinea. All right. Now, as we left then, other groups of our group destroyers came across Jap planes. We had to lay a 35-mile smoke screen. 60 planes were attacking our ship, and it was a 4-hour attack.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
I know that you brought in some combat video from the Drayton, and we're going to try and use some of that. Can you tell us a little bit background on that? How did that happen?
Yes, during one of our reunions, in fact, it was in San Diego, the ship's doctor had taken 8mm film aboard ship. Now, there was no video or anything else back then. Now, the reason how I know that, years ago, you used to be able to buy a little tape that you would paste over your film, and that would either fade in or fade out the picture. Okay, now it's a very good tape. That was 8mm. That was he had put on a tape, or somebody had it put on a tape. And some spots it's not a good tape. It's back in 1940. How long does a tape last? And this is 19.
Sure. But these are tapes of some experiences of the Drayton, then?
That is on the Drayton. When we had the troops, that's where I can prove my point, that we had troops and they were disembarking on a landing craft alongside the ship. There was two boats.
How did you feel with all that activity going on? I mean, go ahead, say it.
I guess scared like everybody
Sure,
else.
of course.
I mean, you could hear they were just above us, but it was smoke, and they couldn't see us, and we couldn't see them. There was a case, though. They did drop a bomb, and it missed our ship, but the bomb, fragments of the bomb, hit our tank that made white smoke.
Oh my goodness.
All the ships were making black smoke. We were making white smoke, along with black smoke. Now, of course, the Jets could see us. Well, then the captain said, jettison the tank, so they threw it over the side. And then we all were doing black smoke.
Well, to lay a smoke screen of 35 square miles takes a lot of smoke and a lot of time.
Yes. I asked our chief engineer, how did we make black smoke? He said we mixed oil with the fuel, which made the smoke black. Now, when they were making black smoke, we're all on deck. In the morning, smoke is coming down. In the morning, we're all black with soot.
Soot, sure.
And another thing there too, when a plane dropped a bomb, he also went through the hull of the ship, which is only about 3/8 inch thick, and somehow fractured our water system. Therefore, we were not allowed to take showers, only maybe once every few days. In this case, one of the officers would watch you you're taking a shower, one of the officers would stand there to make sure you would time how long you would take a shower. Now, I don't know who watched the officer. It had to be the captain. But then again, who watched the captain?
Of course, of course. Elmer, I see that you have a pair of suspenders from the Drayton, and you've also got a tie that has a Purple Heart on it.
Yes.
Now there's we all admire somebody that has received a Purple Heart in the service of their country. Can you tell us how that occurred and when it occurred, what happened?
Yes. One evening, we're traveling along in a moonlight sky, and a Japanese plane shut off its engine, glided down, and dropped a bomb about 150 feet off to our starboard side. They said at the time it was a personnel bomb. That I don't know. But anyway, it did scatter a lot of shrapnel throughout the ship. One fellow was hit in the neck and jugular vein, bled to death in a few minutes. Another fellow got it in the chest. Okay. I was on my general quarter station, my torpedo tube, and it was relax time at the stand easy. That's the word, stand easy. And the plane glided down, dropped a bomb. Unfortunately, he hit me in the hip. If I was standing, which I was a few minutes earlier, back a couple feet, I probably would have got it in the chest. But then I was a helmsman at the time. They had somebody else take my place, so I wouldn't have to go up on a ladder to the bridge.
So you were wounded by that bomb being dropped off your starboard, and they kind of patched you up and kept you on the ship.
The dead didn't even get off the ship. Walking wounded, everybody stayed aboard ship.
Okay.
Even the dead.
Well, sure.
Okay, we didn't bury him. Let's see, like you see in the movies.
So after you were wounded and they patched you up, what was the next day like?
The next day was peaceful for a while. Then all of a sudden, everything broke loose. Dive bombers, suicide plane. There was one suicide plane, and I can show you here on the picture.
Please do.
The suicide plane just dropped out of the sky. We didn't even know he was there. Dropped out of the sky, came down below our bow, okay? then came above the bow, and right there is where the chief's quarters are located. We had a chief gunner's mate. Why, we don't know. He came up out of the hatch, and just as he stuck his head through the hatch, the Jap plane was there. He lost his head, took off his head. All right? Then the plane kept traveling. I was standing just starboard of the 5-inch gun with a 55-pound shell in my hand. Okay? And the helmsman, thank goodness, he steered to the ship to the right. Therefore, we were sideswiped. Not direct hit, we were sideswiped. But then I was standing right here, and it spun me around, I lost balance, and I came backwards on the deck. Okay? Then the Jap plane was on the port side now. The powder handler for the 5-inch gun came out from behind our shelter, and the plane cut him in half. It was right down at deck level. Then the plane sideswiped on the port side now, left side, alongside the ship, and killed about several guys and other fellows. The ship was on fire now, and because of the plane, and kept traveling along the port side. Some about 6 or 8 young fellows, like myself, had to jump overboard because their clothes were on fire, because the plane was on fire. The plane continued along the port side of the ship and crashed into the water after that. But again, there were several people, young fellows, were killed, others were burned. And fortunately, I was on the starboard side.
Well, it seems like it was fortunate the helmsman put the boat to the right.
He tried to miss the plane, but the plane caught us anyway. And in our report, it tells you all about that. That there was terrific handling of the ship by the captain.
And did you ever participate in landing any troops, carrying any troops on your ship?
Yes, December 5th, yes. We participated in landing of reinforcements. And we took about 50 Army soldiers aboard our ship. Now, where do you put people, extra people aboard your ship? There was no place for them to sleep or eat, all right? And therefore, they were aboard our ship for 2 days. Now, I got to tell this part of the story. I was on the mid-watch when we were out to sea, and I was tired. I said, maybe I get about 3 or almost 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, I may get an hour or 2 sleep before general quarters. So when we got down to my bunk, there is a soldier sleeping in my bunk.
In your bunk?
In my bunk. Now I looked at him, I stood there. I said, now I can't wake this guy up, because if I wake him, he might stumble around the ship and might fall overboard. So I just stood there and looked at him, and I said, no, I'll let him sleep. I'll go topside. So I went topside and slept underneath my torpedo tube. Now, again, sleeping on a deck, all right? It's comfortable if you don't sleep on the rivets. And every time the ship would make a 10-degree left turn, we're only about 8 feet off the water, the deck level off the water, your feet would get wet. The spray would come over the side of the ship, and your feet would get wet. Then if that wasn't the case, again, we're talking about smoke screen. Early in the morning, the ship would clean their tubes, and they'd blow out the smoke out of the stack. All that smoke would come down on top of you or whoever else is on deck. So, again, I let that soldier sleep peacefully for the night. I don't know who he was. I never seen him. But I'm glad I hope he's still alive.
Let's see, that's part of the camaraderie of the military, doing things together and doing something for each other. Did you ever encounter any bad weather on a small ship like this?
Oh, now you want to talk about that? How about a typhoon?
That's bad weather.
A typhoon. All right. The weather was turning bad. Now the word was passed, if you're not on duty, go to your bunk and stay there, because it was getting really rough, okay? Now the chief torpedoman came down to my bunk and said, Elmer, the captain has orders to put to sea, all right? Go topside, go to the bridge.
That's because
okay.
you were a helmsman.
I was a helmsman, and that's where our torpedo director was up on the bridge. So I was a helmsman and torpedoman. We all wore different hats in the service, if you want to put it that way. We had different jobs. So I said, okay. So I got out of my bunk, and I started getting my clothes. I wanted to put them on. The torpedo.
The chief.
Chief, thank you. The chief says, get to the bridge. Grab your clothes. So I grabbed my clothes, and I said, I need my shoes. I said, get to the bridge. So away I went in my underwear.
In your underwear and barefooted?
Barefooted and underwear. Thank goodness they had the safety rails put up for bad weather. So I finally made it to the ladder to the bridge. I got to the bridge, got into the pilot house, and in my underwear. And the captain was there, and the one phone talker. And I told the captain, he says, get to the bridge. I didn't have time to get dressed. And my clothes were soaking wet anyway. And the anchor was coming up. Now we're putting out to sea. In the meantime, I was able to kind of get going. But it was rough, very rough. They lost a couple destroyers in that typhoon. It was that bad.
Did you have water coming up over the bow, and how was visibility?
Talk about water. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. White water coming up over the bridge and splashing all over your portholes. You couldn't see anything anyway. You just had to steer by compass. Yes, very rough.
And how long did you have to stay at that at the helm?
Now they get back to it. I was on the helm about 3.5, 4 hours by myself. My partner didn't get to the bridge, and therefore it was the captain, the radio speaker, and myself. The officer of the deck, I never made it to the bridge either. Okay, there's 3 of us running the ship from the bridge.
In that kind of destroyer, there was no way to get to the bridge from the internal parts of the ship? You had to access it from outside?
Outside, yes. Up the ladders here. Well, you can't see the ladder here, but yeah, that's the way you had to get up.
And the weather was so bad that nobody could take the chance of trying to get up there at that point?
No, the safety rails were down here. This was all open. Here, no. No.
There wasn't a chance, no.
And in fact, at sea, there was nothing to get a broken arm or throw a shoulder out of place because of bad weather.
Well, if you spent that much time with the captain, did you guys establish a little friendship there?
I wouldn't call it friendship because we're trying to run the ship and we had no time to talk. He would give an order, I'd obey the order, I'd repeat the order back to him. There was no friendly talk back and forth. We were just trying to say to keep the ship from sinking.
Of course. And obviously you were successful because you're here with us today.
Yes.
Tell me, Elmer, how did you finally get the Purple Heart? How was that pinned on you? What happened? What were the circumstances?
Okay, I was transferred After I had got wounded in that, I got transferred back to the States to school again. I said, school, that's all I'm doing, school. Well, there were two other fellows, they're getting the Purple Heart that day. They turned out the, I should say, the school, all the students turned out to watch the ceremony.
On the parade field?
Yes, on the parade field.
This was in San Diego?
San Diego, yes. It was very good. And afterwards, a photographer took our picture, which I was all kind of delighted, the fact that we were all looking at our Purple Hearts and so forth. And we're all happy about it, happy to be there to begin with.
Of course.
And
so you were assigned at that point then to what kind of duty? The war was starting to draw to a close at that
yes.
point.
And after we graduated from the torpedo school, I didn't have to go back to sea again. I was assigned to Bainbridge, Maryland. Went to school there again to learn how to participate in helping to separate the fellows that had enough points to be discharged from the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a 2-day process. We'd take them around to different stations and tell them to be back on time for our next location. Mm-hmm. If we went to lunch or things like that, be back on time.
So when you were finally discharged, where did you go afterwards when you were discharged?
I had a young girlfriend in Chicago or in Markham, Illinois. Mm-hmm. And when I was become home on leave, I had an uncle lived a few blocks away. My girlfriend and I would go out together. In fact, I married her. 62 years we've been married, happily married.
Oh, very good for you. Good for you.
And
when you returned home, were your mom and dad still alive?
No. My two brothers were still. One brother was in the Army, my kid brother, younger brother, he was in the Navy also, aboard the battleship New York.
So your family really did quite a service to the country.
Well, yes.
Mm-hmm. And you're proud of that, of course.
Definitely.
And after you were discharged from the Navy, what did you do? What kind of employment did you go into?
Well, they said take a rest for a while. Don't just go out and look for work or anything like that. But I did want to go to work. I got a job at the telephone company, Illinois Bell, back in '46. Mm-hmm. Was there for 37 and a half years before retirement. And I became a supervisor and an instructor on first aid, CPR, the heart massage, and so forth.
Well, you had a long, extended term with Illinois Bell, and you've been married for 62 years. And
happy life.
Happily married, I should say.
Happily married, happy life.
So you've shown some real commitment to whatever you choose to do.
Yes.
As you see what's happening today with our military and what's happening in the world, do you have any advice for any of the younger people?
I just wish they weren't there. To see all these young fellows, people, like myself back at the time, 18, and these young fellows dying. Of course, dying for the country is a great thing, but they shouldn't be there, in my way of speaking. Of course, there's a reason for it, why they're there. But I think I'd rather see them home here. They're away from their families, their kids. They shouldn't be there.
Well, there
My way
are
of thinking.
probably people who could have said that back then when you were 18, 19 years old and
Yes.
doing that. You
Yes.
weathered it and went through it.
Yes.
And the nickname of your ship was the Blue Beetle?
Yes. Here's another point. President Roosevelt wanted different ships painted a different color. So all destroyers in our group were painted different color. Ours was a sky blue. They said at times you couldn't see it against the ocean. It was kind of invisible. And when they had it all painted, the fellow said, let's call it the Blue Beetle. And of course the captain went aboard went along with that. And that's how we got the name. When we had our reunion, different reunions, somebody always brought something, either to sell or to pass out to the shipmates. Okay, here I have a pair of suspenders, USS Drayton, okay? I have here in my pocket a belt buckle. One fella was in the business. He made those for shipmates, the Blue Beetle or the Drayton.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I want to hear a little bit more about that Liberty in Australia.
Oh, great. We were there, I say about 4 times. We're either going to take a ship in or bring a ship out. That's the only way we got to go to Australia. We were at Brisbane, Australia. We were at Sydney, Australia a few times. Melbourne, Australia. Now the captain was transferred off the ship. Now he got into a position where he was able to assign ships at different localities. He sent us to Melbourne, Australia. Okay? Now there's Townsville, Australia, which was way up north. Now they were very concerned about the Japanese invading.
Sure.
They were close to the Jap territory. A lot of fun. It was good.
I want to hear a little bit about that Liberty
Oh.
that you can speak of. I know you've been married for 62 years, but tell me what Liberty was like. Did you ever run into the shore patrol?
Yes. In Melbourne, okay? I was a torpedoman. My buddy, he was a mess cook. So therefore, I got to go aboard, leave the ship earlier than he did. I'd go ashore earlier, and he'd come afterwards. I was more or less at a USO, whatever it was at the time. And I know I had a tray full of food. And I'm walking through the lobby. All of a sudden, I passed out. What had happened, I had stopped to get a drink or at a bar somewhere, and I might have got slipped a Mickey Finn.
Oh.
Okay? And I just passed out completely. Next thing I did, I woke up. I didn't have any clothes on. I was in a shower. There's 2 Marines standing there. And they picked me up and took me to the men's room of the shower. And that's when I finally got partially sobered up. And I told them I was at Guadalcanal at one time. That's all I had to say. They were at Guadalcanal. I could have anything I want. Have you got any money? Got enough money? I'm fine. Do you want a girl? I'll send my girlfriend over to see you. No thanks, I'm fine. I'm waiting for my buddy. And that was it, you know. They were just real good guys. And they saved me from the shore patrol. Here, you pass out, who's going to pick you up? The shore patrol. Okay? And there was another time, my buddy and I we just got back to the States, okay? We get on a train, one of these old, I don't know if you ever rode the World War II trains way back then. The seats would go forward or backward, you know.
Sure.
You can move them. So we're in Salt Lake City. And we got off the train to take a break. We got back on the train. There's two Marines sitting in our, had moved our seats. And my buddy was a hothead, okay? And the one Marine was kind of a hothead. And I was cool, and the other guy was cool. And they say, "You're in my seat." So what? You know, kind of.
Yeah.
And this other guy, and he said, "No," he said, "Let's talk about this, okay?" And that's all right. We can move the seat back. You can have the seat. Anyway, we got to be friends. And we get back to Chicago. My uncle was waiting at the station for us, the South Street station. And these two Marines are still with us. And I talked to my uncle, and I said, "These two guys we met on the train. Well, come on, have them come with us." They took us back to Markham, where my uncle lived at the time. And we had a ball. Two Marines and two sailors. And then before we even got there, we got to, I'd have to think about it. We got to a town. We got 2 hours layover on a train. So they said, what's going on in town? Well, there's an army post down the road. Oh, let's go down there having a dance. So we went down there, and we walked in. Now, two Marines and two sailors and an army post.
Something's got to
Sharp
give.
or MP says, "All right, you guys, you can stay here, but behave yourself, all right? We don't want any trouble." We said, "We're just here to have a good time, to see what's going on. And, you know, we got time." "Okay, but just watch yourself." So therefore, that's how that got started. So that's when we became real good friends, you know.
Those are wonderful stories.
Yeah, right. Oh, then Ogden, Utah. Ogden, Utah, you could buy, if you're a resident for 2 or 3 days, you could buy liquor. Okay?
Oh. You had to be a resident of 2 or 3
You had to
days.
be a resident for 2 or 3 days. So these Marines got rid of some of their clothes. Well, in that case, got rid of their clothes and loaded up with the liquor. It said. We had a great time. What else can I say about Australia? Oh, yeah. You go to King's Cross, I think they called it. And they had a kangaroos. You can fight with a kangaroo. If you can stand long enough with a kangaroo, you win a prize. No way could you stay with a kangaroo. They'd grab you and they'd kick you, you know, with the kangaroo. You know, they beat the hell out of you.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
And then we were on the excursion. We were going out to King's Cross, and there were two English sailors on the other side of the cruise ship. And these gals are talking about, what's it called?
Limeys?
Limeys, yeah. Well, they use limeys. I said, "Now watch your mouth, will ya? We're not starting any trouble." So we got rid of 2 gals because any more limeys, they're going to start trouble. So he says, "Goodbye, girls. You're gone." Then I met another girl. He took me home for lunch. And we were having lunch. And her daughter says, "Oh, I'm knocked up." Whoa, 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 whoa! What'd you say? You're knocked up? I said to her mother, "I never laid a hand on her." What they meant by being knocked up, they were sweaty, they were warm. Okay, so be careful what you say now. I'm saying knocked up, I never touched you. Oh, there's a lot of stories again. Oh yeah, this buddy and I are in town, and we already had a drink. Now he must have got a Mickey Finn somewhere. I was holding him up on the street. 4 Australians come up. "Hey, sailor, you got any money?" "No." Now they were going to pick a fight, you know. And they would have beat the hell out of us. So happens, I don't know, 4 of our shipmates just happened to be walking down the street. "Hi, Elmer, how's things going?" I don't know yet.
Sure.
Well, they took off, you know. And so we were at a bar, and the woman, she owned the bar, says, "Come here, sailor." She got me, come with me. She took me on the side, says, "You and your buddy get out of here." She says, "Those two guys are going to slip you a Mickey Finn, or drug you, or whatever you want to call it," she'd say. So she says, "Just pick up your money and get out," which we did.
Did you ever
But
think it was safer on the ship as opposed to being on Liberty?
It was safer. About a half hour later, that's when I passed out, you know. They already slipped me a Mickey Finn. Phew, right out in the middle of the street, out like a light. And he had to take me back to the ship. Now the ship's doctor, we're in one of the islands, and after work, we were able to go swimming. So it's one fellow, maybe with other guys, we'd go swimming at a jungle river. Okay, now they had it fenced off. There'd be no alligators, crocodiles through there. And I got an infection, fungus, in the right ear. Okay? And one night, pain got so terrible, I had to go find a doctor, Army doctor, any doctor. And I had clean clothes in my bag, and I had soapy clothes soaking in the bucket of water to be washed the next day. Now, instead of putting on a clean, dry clothes, it was pouring rain out. I mean, a real storm. I put on these soapy, they got clean on my back, soapy clothes, and went looking for a doctor. I went through a native graveyard to get to the road to find a doctor. And a mile or two down the road, there was an Army camp. I went to the Army camp. I says, "Where is your doctor?" They directed me to the location. I got to the doctor. I got to the doctor's location. And a pharmacist made, I says, "I want to see the doctor." He says, "You come back tomorrow." "I have to see the doctor." "Come back tomorrow." I guess I was screaming by this time. I said, "I got to see your doctor." Well, the doctor was in a Quonset hut about several hundred feet away, and it was pouring rain. He heard me yelling. He came over, and I told him that I had terrible earache. He said, "What you got is a fungus on your eardrum." He says, "Come back tomorrow, and if we have to, we'll have to poke your eardrum. That would mean discharge." In the meantime, he gave me some pills, pain pills. He said, "Now don't take any of these pills until you get back to your campsite." Well, me like a young buck fella, I took them anyway.
Of course.
And I almost didn't make it back to my camp. I just about fell asleep. I had to practically crawl back to my camp. They were that strong. Anyway, the next day I said, "I'm not going back to the Army doctor." Fortunately, 2 officers came into our camp going up to the Drayton, looking for the Drayton. And one was a doctor. He treated me, got rid of the infection and so forth. Then we traveled on to the Drayton and so forth.
You were born in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then when you got out of the service, you came to the Chicago Markham area. And I know where Markham
Because
is.
I was going to Great Lakes at the time.
I see.
And my uncle lived in Markham. Okay?
I see.
And only about 6 blocks away, Dorothy, my wife, lived, okay? And my uncle wanted to get a date for me. So my wife Dorothy, she was the only one around. So he got us set up for a date, you know. And we'd write back and forth, nothing serious. And then I've been on leave one time from the South Pacific, and my uncle had my dad come, at the time I was still alive, came to visit because I was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, my girlfriend Dorothy, and my dad was sitting by the fire, by the Christmas tree, and my dad gave my wife the engagement ring.
Oh.
And after that was over, I says, "Come on, let's go in the other room for a minute."
Mm-hmm.
So we went in the other room. I says, "You want to make it legal? You want to make it legal?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I never proposed to Dorothy. My dad did it. He gave my mother's engagement ring, you know, and wedding ring, and he gave her the engagement ring. So that's how that all came about. And I tell that story when we'd go to our reunions also, you know. I said, I never, even my grandkids, I didn't propose to your grandmother. My dad did.
Do you recall what happened with the Drayton?
Yes. She made it back to the States. She was decommissioned and was cut up for scrap in 1947.
Oh.
Some of the guys that live on the East Coast, I got off at Chicago, guys that live on the East Coast, they were stayed aboard ship because they had to have somebody there. They were sleeping, they said they were freezing, there no heat, no nothing. They were sleeping in the captain's, they take turns. Slept in the captain's cabin one night, you know, no officers aboard, they're all gone. And, I was, oh yeah, when I was transferred, they said, "Get your bag, you're gone." You know, they got boat coming in to pick you up. Well, I left the ship and I went aboard this here LST. And I'm sitting on the deck, just looking at my ship was anchored a mile or so away. I just sat there looking, I was so sorry to leave her, you know. And I said, I sat there until dark, you couldn't see a thing. I said, I'll be up here first thing in the morning, before light. I was up there before light, and it finally got light. She's gone. Where is she? She had left sometime during the night. Now, I'm alone in a South Pacific with thousands of other guys, don't know a soul. No, I felt very lonesome. I felt kind of depressed back then, you know.
A sailor makes a connection with his ship.
Oh yeah,
And that becomes your identity and everything else.
Yeah, like I said, the chief said, "This is your home now. Be good to it.
Sure.
Treat like you treat a woman, you know, be good to her." Oh yeah, that's a connection you get.
Well, you wear it proudly.
This one here is the liberation of the Philippines. That was awarded to me many years ago. This is the Philippine Presidential Citation. And of course, the one I'm proud of is the Purple Heart. And these are Pacific and
World War II.
American Defense. Okay, now here's a good conic medal over here. And this one here, again. Okay.
Who's this good-looking guy right here?
Oh, yeah. That was me at the age of 21. I had this picture taken in San Francisco back in the 40s, 43 or 43. Okay. What else? This was back then the ruptured duck.
Oh.
That's what everybody got. But here it's the inscription is, in fact, you got better eyesight than I do.
A grateful nation remembers World War II, 1941 and 1945.
Yeah. That's when we were discharged from the Navy, we got a little patch that had the ruptured duck on it, yellow. I never got the presidential citation in the States here. That's the Philippine presidential citation.
Oh, here. Okay.
That's the Philippines.
I'm impressed with the suspenders and the pictures that that you've garnered and the way you've saved your battles.
Yeah.
You're very proud to have been a
I should have.
sailor for us, and we want to thank you for that. And we thank you for serving the country, and thank you for telling such a good story. This has been an interview with World War II torpedo man Elmer Hunter. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Elmer.
Thank you.
For your time. Thanks again to the Plainfield Television Group. I'm Terry Burghardt. Thank you for watching. Take care, sir.
All right.